in the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What a pity. Tomorrow never certain. What dwells behind the curtain? The face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, could either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.
There is no shortage of news presented in a negative light about the economy. You're going to hear these days about rising gas prices and other forms of inflation, rising home prices, the fact that home ownership is being delayed, and what this is going to mean, presumably for you, right? But is it really already determined? Is it fate, or where is your choice in all of this? How about all the other things that we hear, for example, about the great opportunities in AI and in the blockchain space and in the Internet of Things and all that other kind of stuff, right? Okay, first of all, let's get one thing out of the way, okay? Let's click that like button, click that subscribe button if you haven't already, click the bell button twice. We're going to be having a great conversation today about this topic, okay? About what 2020 will mean, about how to flip the economic collapse and chaos that is out there in the news into some economic success there. But first of all, Dana, how are you doing? I believe you are muted.
Yes, I am. Sorry. Hi.
Hello, how's it going?
Good. Never mind my hair, honey.
I think someone has
I'm in between weeks.
in between. Okay, makes sense. Now, someone has smoke for you. They say they can't find the fake Dana. You're the real Dana, right? Okay. So, shout out to the super chatter in the building already. That's very, very, very much appreciated. We got the pounds rolling in. That's over $2 right there. If it's $1.99 pounds. No, I mean 199 pounds, not $1.99 pounds.
Which is what, $4 in American, $4.50 in American money.
Oh, yeah, but it's like 1.8, or is it?
This is the economy show today.
This is the economy show. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. As you come in, please go ahead and like the stream. Okay. Now we're gonna begin this by there's a statement. Okay. Now this statement was been attributed to Nathan Rothschild. He's a 19th century British financier, part of the Rothschild family. Okay. Now some people may have heard about the Rothschild family. I believe probably the Dana, right, has heard about the Rothschild family, right? Now, basically, he gave some advice, which is not something new. In this, he says basically that the time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. That's a nice dramatic statement, and that's why it is popular. Okay, but in more recent times, contemporary quote, Warren Buffett says basically that you got to be bold when others are fearful, right? And then you got to be a little fearful when others start being weirdly bold. Okay. So, but what does that statement to you mean? Got to buy when there's blood on the streets, because there's lots of blood on the streets, which we're going to play in this video right now. But what does that statement mean to you? How does it strike you?
For me, are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It means exactly how he said it. It's just plain as day. Now, he caused a lot of the blood on the streets. He promotes it. The Rothschilds fund it. So everybody, black people want to run around here saying white supremacy. Understand, white supremacy is the banking system, and the Rothschilds are one of the main players creators of white supremacy. However, that means, yeah, when the stock is low or crashed, or the real estate market is bust, that's when you're supposed to buy, when everything
Okay.
is down in the dumps.
Okay, cool. So
If you have the money for it, but we'll get into that. But yeah.
yeah, and even beyond even buying, things tend to now be reopened for renegotiation, right? All of a
Hmm.
sudden, terms of all kinds of things like leases or this and that, all of a sudden are loose now, because the price is not the only thing that goes on in business. There's always terms. But there's this guy that says, you can name any price as long as I name the terms, right? Meaning, you
Hmm.
can tell me $1 billion. Okay, cool. Well, I'll pay you over 1 billion years. You know, let's it's all about the terms. Okay, now, okay, good. Now, that is very true in the sense that blood on the streets means it is the time to buy. Things are low. Let's hear about the quote unquote blood on the streets that is happening. Okay, these days by playing this video here called 50 Facts.
You gonna play the whole 15 or no?
No. We're
Okay,
gonna take it
good.
piece by piece. We're gonna take word by word, see what's going on here. But people, oh, that's funny, Dana.
Today's economy is destroying the lives of.
No, it sounds almost like parody, but I'm gonna speed it up a little bit. This dude sounds like it's coming out from the graves of full 1.5. I think is probably good. Yeah, let's see.
Millions of hard-working Americans. Tonight, countless men and women out there won't be able to sleep as they get consumed with anxiety about their worsening financial problems. There are lots of parents all across the country experiencing severe financial insecurity, and they're trying to figure out a way to explain to their kids why they can't put food on the table anymore, or...
Okay. In the past 2 years, okay? Now, you don't have to get all personal with your finances,
Hmm.
but in the past 2 years, have things gone backwards or forwards for you financially, would you say, right? Have, or in other words, this notion of this particular person that's being described right now cannot sleep, doesn't know how to explain to the kids, right? Have you experienced any of that, or know anybody whom, for example, lost their jobs in 2020 and wasn't able to, things of that nature?
Yeah. We're just coming out of the pandemic, and I was one of those people who in 2020 I did lose my job where I was working at in New York City, because everything shut down. So that was just out of your control. And some people have created businesses during that time and made more money than they ever made before in their lives. Some people panicked, some people chilled, So, but one thing I can say is that everybody got a lot of free money from the government. So what comes into play with that? One of the things, like if you're losing your job or the economy crash or whatever, how do you pivot? Right? How do
Mhm.
you overcome that? A lot of times, a lot of people have problems because they don't have money management. And that's something that has to be taught, whether you teach yourself or you go have somebody teach you, or you were brought up learning money management, right? So if you found yourself getting all this free money from the government, um, and not saving or investing, or just not figuring out how to pivot, then as of today in 2022, you're going to be probably in a far worse situation, or the same situation in the beginning of 2020 after you were laid off, because the after effects it's like two faces here. A lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of people got sick, some people passed away. But then it was the other side of the card. It was a lot of people making money, right? It was a lot of new businesses or contracts that allow people to make money, more so on the healthcare sector side of it. So it was funny because I just started back working in my field, which is the healthcare field, last year. And I really started like the beginning of the third quarter. probably end of second, beginning of third, and I made a good amount of money last year because I'm really a business person owner, but I had W-2 as well. I was making that transition to now I'm just solely business person, right? So I made out good last year because of the pandemic, to where some people are just trying to rebound back, right? So I say all that to say, the bottom line, if you don't know how to manage money on a simplest level, it's going to get worse from here on out. Because the economy, the society, the economy is fully open. There are jobs, but now we're paying $6 for gas. Food prices are going up. If you have children, so that's more money because more food, clothes, everything is going up. Interest rates, everything. So if you don't have, a lot of people are starting from the beginning, and again, you're either starting in the red, in the minus, or in the black. But if you don't have basic management money skills, basic money management skills, then it's going to get worse for you in 2022 with no lockdown and no assistance from the government.
Okay, so let's move on here with this video, and we're gonna address some of those things about prices going up and inflation, and the fact that home prices are going up has two sides. There's a buyer and there's a seller. See, the seller's not complaining. Okay, the owner of the property is loving the fact that the property is going up. Isn't that right, Dana? I mean, like, you don't shed a tear when your home value goes up. That's the whole game.
This is a seller's market.
Okay, so yeah, let's go. The buyer's
But I
market
think
is
we're
the
headed
seller's
for a
market.
crash. But yeah,
That too, all that stuff, indeed.
Why their homes are being taken away. It's getting increasingly harder to find a decent job in the US. Given the current rate of inflation, the vast majority of job openings do not offer wages that allow workers to make ends meet. Meanwhile, Americans are being crushed by higher grocery bills, rising energy prices, record high prices for gasoline, and unaffordable housing. Working conditions continue to worsen by the day. Our once beautiful and bright metropolitan cities have been so devastated by this economy that it seems as if almost everyone has had the hope sucked right out of them. Bankruptcies and business closures have changed the U.S. economic landscape.
Let me ask you: did you work more hours in the third quarter of last year? When what was it with the fourth
I
quarter?
did, because I was
yeah.
part of the what do you want to call it? The vaccination. I was the one going to people's homes, signing them up for them to be vaccinated, right? So state, they were handing out contracts to companies. So if you are already an established company, medical company, and massage therapy falls under that or whatever, you are able to bid on $1 million contracts, right? So you hire employees. So I came in, I was hired as an independent contractor, and yeah, it was a lot of hours because that's when it was pushing vaccination. So I worked more because it was more opportunity for that. Mind you, economy wasn't fully open, but they're like, hey, if you want to get back to work, you got to get vaccinated and all this stuff, politics or whatever. So yeah, I worked more because, again, going back to your field, it was part of the healthcare field. Now,
okay.
And healthcare doesn't go out of style. Like healthcare, you can always make money in healthcare, but you just made extra money. You made a whole lot more money in 2020 and 2021 in that field, particularly for me last year.
Yeah, so I'm just pausing on this point here of the hours, because a lot of time, what we've noticed is hours went up when people actually worked at home. Okay.
That too. Yeah.
Obviously, these things are not even distributions, right? In other words, it's going to be certain people for which this is going to matter. Some people are not going to be able to work more at home, blah, blah, blah. But there's a certain sector of people whom are perfectly built for that, and they were set up for that, and they actually worked more hours. And you represent one of those, but you actually also made more money, which I suspect is the case, right? And you're working more and you're getting paid more, but over here it's being represented as though this kind of more hours just went to nothing, like like you're dying.
Yeah, right. So that's the other side of the card too when we're talking about working hours and your wages, because even when the economy opened, unemployment rate actually did not decrease in certain states. A lot of people quit their jobs because it's like, okay, now I can get back to work. But now these corporations, you want to work people to the bone like a dog and pay them less. See, this is a lot of people, when the economy opened back up, companies were paying people less, which was wrong, because they're trying to say, well, we lost money, we lost a year, so we're trying to preserve. So, okay, you working these people like crazy, you're paying them less, and a lot of people are like, I quit. And that's wrong. I mean, I have a specialty, so I'm not getting out of bed
But okay,
if
so
I'm not making a certain amount per hour.
You pivoted, right? You pivoted, and some people may quit and pivot. Some people may get fired and pivot, but the idea is the pivot, right? And how you were able to come out towards the end of the whole period, and then even making more money. And your story is, I'm sure, kind of you're not the only one, right?
I'm not the only one, but but then you talk about the essential workers, like waitresses, like, people, well, even I'm in the service industry, but still the lower paying jobs to a certain degree, they really got, they didn't make out so well. Like, they were taken advantage of. Companies, corporations took advantage of them, and that was wrong. So a lot of them quit.
And hopefully that was a good thing that they quit, right? That they actually went and perhaps did something. Now, I mean, enough of a critical mass of them. If like 20% of them made something out of that quitting, then that's good, right? You know what I mean?
That's good too. But and also what came out of that, it sent a message to corporations, because it's like, you realize you need the workers. So when you look at Target, they've raised their prices now to between $20 and $24 an hour. That's great. And Target made a lot of money during the pandemic because they were open throughout the whole. Target was the hangout spot when everything else was closed.
Let me tell you, this just came to mind, that this is something that happens when the people also raise their money, is they also get better people. In other words, you're like, okay, cool, we're ready to raise our wages, okay? But now that means, because there's a market, right? We can grab a few better people. We're now in a slightly better bracket, okay, in the wage market. And when you get better people, they may be getting more bang for their buck out of those people. Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of times companies don't even lose when they raise their wages.
Right.
Okay? So, anyways, let's continue, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we're talking about the economy. It's not a shortage of news that is framed in a negative way: gas prices, war, home ownership being delayed, so on and so forth. But then on the other hand, there's also positive news. And plus, we know that the time to expand, the time to buy, is when there's blood in the streets. So what's all this talk about the economy and the predictions meaning what's going to happen to me? No, that doesn't mean what's going to happen to me. What it should mean for me is, how can I take advantage of it? Overall. But anyways, we continue. Fair use.
Been so devastated by this economy that it seems as if almost everyone has had the hope sucked right out of them. Bankruptcies and business closures have changed the U.S. economic landscape forever. Homelessness keeps rising at an alarming rate and is disproportionately affecting young Americans whose future has been removed from their hands. Today, we have gathered for you 50 facts that expose the harsh reality of everyday Americans. Before checking this list with you, don't forget to leave a thumbs up on this video and please subscribe to our channel. The economic statistics that we're about to report are incredibly shocking.
Oh my God. This scene right here is funny.
What? Why is that funny?
Okay, so, well, first of all, okay, I mean, it represents kind of dejection or depression or something bad's going on, right? He's got his hand on his head, right? And whoever this is, the sleeping is just, well, let me see. Let me put it on the screen. My bad. The sleeping here is kind of funny. It's like, things are so bad.
It looks like that's a shelter.
Oh, cool, this is a shelter. Okay, cool. Well, okay, all right. Well, at least they got beds.
That's not funny. And this is the
Hey.
thing. I don't laugh at that because you never know when that could be you. Like
Oh,
a lot of
trust
people.
me, I laugh because, and also I'm no stranger to the crazy ups and downs that life throws you. You know, I've been there, done that in many ways. You know what I
Have you
mean?
been
But
homeless? Like I've
yeah,
never been homeless, and I'm scared to be homeless.
you haven't. Okay, but I'm sure you've dealt with tough times, right?
Yeah, I have,
And I'm sure you look back at them like, oh, those are some rough
but you
years, but
know
you look
what?
fondly back at it, right? Yeah.
Honestly, I've dealt with tough times, but a lot of times I brought those tough times on myself. So
Okay. I see your point. I see your point. So let's continue here, ladies and gentlemen.
And please subscribe to our channel. The economic statistics that we're about to report are incredibly shocking, but unfortunately they are very, very real. Without further ado, here are 50 facts that show just how much the average American has been destroyed by this economy. 1. For the first time in nearly 5 decades, Americans are officially facing a cost of living crisis, with wages dropping by almost 3.5% when adjusted for inflation, despite a 5.1% gain recorded over the past 12 months. The price of food staples such as milk rose by an average of 17% from the past year, while eggs soared 42%.
Okay, so it seems like we're going to start from the whole real wages not rising plus the inflation talk, right? Okay, cool. So
The average sales price of a home rocketed 21.65% from a year earlier. 2. In the last quarter of 2021, home prices were $70,000.
So Dana, let's talk. Okay, so you moved from the, shall we say, having a W-2. Now you're plus plus being a 1099 of your own, right? Now you're just straight up 1099 from people that you work for out there. You're a contractor, right? And here's something that always comes to mind, because I'm a business person myself, right? Provide engineering services and things like that. And when people talk about inflation, I just always remember that you too can turn up the knob on the inflation, right? You can increase your prices, right? And people expect it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you've been doing business with some contractor, or somebody before, some vendor, whatever it may be. And for the past year and a half, you've had one price, you've given them good service. This time comes around, this is the time to turn it up. And they're not going to be like, no, everything is going up around them. They're going to be like, Dana, actually, you're not so bad in terms of your price increase, and you've been providing great service for me this whole time. Why not? So basically, the idea is this, okay? Number one, when there's inflation, number one, something is inflating, which is an asset. Own the asset. The people whose houses are inflating are not complaining about it. Okay. And then this number two thing is, you can become that inflation. You can become the inflation person. You can turn up the knob by simply getting into the whole world of LLC, getting into the independent contracting / business world, right? I'm not going to go straight and call it business yet, but start doing something independently. Start getting some 1099s or giving to 1099s out, that kind of a thing. Start getting 1099 sent your way by people who pay you money for some service, right? And there's a big game to be played in there in terms of inflation. But anyways, any thoughts so far?
Yeah. See, when the society opened back up like last year, I didn't increase my prices right away. Some people did. Some people increased theirs the end of 2020. I did because I knew it's like, okay, I wanted people to ease back into it, adjust or whatever. But excuse me. Before the gas, before the inflation was just out of hand, before all this stuff that's happening now, I already said that I'm increasing my prices anyway, January of 2022. So the thing, it's because you have to look at it before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the gas prices or whatever, on a state level, tolls went up. Everything went up when the economy opened back up after the pandemic, because they're trying to make that money back. See, a lot of money was lost, but so they're trying to make that money back. So I was going to raise prices anyway to stay up. You want to turn a profit. It's all about turning a profit, and still provide good service. So your customers at that point, letting your customer know ahead of time, it will be a price increase, right? And I think that's a courtesy, because like you said, people expect that. But if you tell them ahead of time, then it's like, yes, it's more understandable, right? So now with gas, inflation, even lodging, where I live at, a lot of people rent because they don't want to be bothered being a homeowner. In New York, rent increased by 45% overnight, which is crazy. So now, as a business owner, or if you're an independent contractor or whatever you're doing, you have no choice but to increase, because if you don't, you're not going to turn a profit. And I had to increase a second time because of the gas and then inflation, because you have to make a profit. So yeah, I think it's good. Like I think that's a good idea for you to become the inflation, but at the same time, you don't want to overdo it, because I personally think that if you keep increasing, putting pressure on something, is what is going to burst. So when you look at the real estate, like houses are, increasing crazy percentage overnight. Like, come on. And your house is not supposed to appreciate that fast. And honestly, because it's appreciating so fast, what's going to happen is going to drop that fast, like drastically, which in turn, this is a good opportunity for us who don't own to save up our little coins, because when that real estate market bursts, and it is, and a lot of people that was going crazy or whatever, that's a good time for us to come in and buy out all the people that are benefiting from it now. So, and let me just throw this in there. It's a lot of greed going on, because yes, you do have to increase your prices, but at the same time, keep in mind that people still have to live. So if you're a homeowner and you want to rent out apartments so you could turn a profit, you don't have to sit up here and increase your rent by 30, 40, 50%.
So, ladies and gentlemen, inflation, what's the answer to that? One answer on one very simple level, okay, beyond certain other things that we may talk about and we will touch upon later, is you can own the asset that inflates and you can own the business that inflates, right? A business is an asset as well.
Well, let me
putting the
push
two
back
together.
on you, because if you own
Go
the
ahead.
asset that inflates, right? What is the long term for that
Oh,
asset?
no. Oh, yeah, for sure. Then you don't be stupid. When you see the market going vertical, like we're seeing right now with houses, you gotta be planning the exit, okay? Yeah, or maybe you're like, you know what? You have a very long-term plan for it, and you're like, I'm not gonna do anything with this spike because
Mhm.
I'm selling in 50 years, or it's my retirement, whatever it may be, right? But you want to own it because at least now you have those choices and you're not
Yeah.
suffering
Because
underneath.
it's like if I go
Yeah.
and I buy a home that's 350 now, because in a year ago it was 300, but within a year it appreciated by 50,000. But then another year from now it decreased by 70,000. But I just bought it at that high ass price, and it's not even worth that, or it's not going to be worth that a year from now. I'm not even talking about 5 years. I'm talking about literally a year from now. It's not going to be worth that. So
Yes, you gotta buy low, and for the other things that we're talking about, when you're taking advantage when there's blood in the streets, means when there wasn't blood in the streets, you were stacking liquidity, stack
mhm.
or having a pipeline. The pipeline just means a business, people who give you money, and you got trade going on, right? You're stacking up trade, you're building systems, and then you also have some liquidity, right?
But
The cash
I
flow,
don't think
right?
it's blood in the streets right now.
Oh,
It's
well, and that's part of the thing too, which is all this blood on the street talk. It's not even real. There is
not
actual
now.
great
Yeah.
opportunity that's
Yeah.
actually right here in
I
front of
think
us.
this
Right?
is the time
Yeah.
to where people need, whether you have money or not, whether you make a lot or a little bit, it doesn't even matter. If you could save a lot, save a little, just start saving. So when we do get to the era of blood on the streets, because it's not now, then you'll be set and you'll have a safety net, and you could go in and you could buy.
I want to say something about price control, okay? Because we're talking about that inflation and we're talking about the fact that you can turn up the price. Now, you can imagine, okay, a business that you're in where you don't really have much choice as to what the price is. And we call those commodities, right? We call those pencils, for example, like a standard wood pencil. You make it, I make it. You don't get to decide what it costs. Coal, oil, those kinds of things.
Mhm.
Your coal, my coal, his coal, same coal, right? So for those kinds of things where it's like a me too, I have it too, you don't call commodities, right? You don't have a lot of price control. But if you're a barber, for example, and you're really good and you service a good clientele and you charge $20 this year, next year you go to 25, which is, by the way, what is that, like 20% increase, right? It's like a 25% increase, actually, I believe. 25% increase. They're not going to flip out on you, right? So the
Mhm.
barber in this scenario will be called somebody that has price control. Now, what's it? Price control happens a lot in service. Okay. Now it
Mhm.
could be transportation service, for example. Okay. Where people get in a pinch, people get in a bind, and they'll almost pay you anything to kind of for you to come save them, for example. Or you're just like the barber person or the plumber or whomever, and you do good work, you know customer service, you got the good follow-up and good sale marketing kind of thing going. You also have price control. And price control is something that you should look at when getting into any business. Okay, don't get into something that's hyper competitive. And I'm going to open the 50th restaurant on this street in Santa Monica. What the hell is wrong with you, right? You have no control over that situation, right? You want to get in places where there's almost an ability for you to find a niche monopoly. I know it sounds like a contradiction, but niche monopoly, boutique type situations where you can service a clientele, have price control, and have some breathing room where you're not so tight. But
Yeah,
anyways,
because
yeah, go ahead.
you are molding your brand, your niche, and um, solidifying your clientele base, right? Your client base, which means a part of price control, which means having less overhead.
Hmm.
So if I can, like I'm a licensed massage therapist. Well, one of the major less overheads is to be mobile because I don't have to pay rent, I don't have to pay for office space, electricity, but I do have to pay for gas.
But you write up, but you write off your rent on your taxes. Ooh.
You can, but at the same time, are you still, even with that write-off, it's not going to be much if you don't, if dependent on your clients. But this, how much am I, then you have to do a contrast and compare and contrast. How much am I, how much am I saving writing off versus just not having that extra expensive overhead? Because if I could save a whole lot more, let's say I'm saving an extra 30, 40, or let's say 50% by not having an actual place and I'm mobile, then that's way more money in my pocket than as a write-off. And I can still have a
Mhm,
write-off because my car is a write-off. Mileage, gas, that's a write-off. So I
mhm.
still having a write-off that's equivalent to the same as writing off rent. And if I have an office, which is a complete separate room where I live at, that could be my rental write-off as well. So again, what was my point? It was price control.
Mhm,
Having less overhead is possible. That's part of price control as well. And then it's
mhm.
having less overhead expenses, but still providing good quality service. That's what it is.
There you go, there you go, there you go. And there is a how in terms of doing that. And let's go ahead and shout out to Super Chats real quick here. I believe that there is. Oh yeah, I had one up and I removed it for whatever reason. Shout out to Dati Galdem in the building for the £5. Okay, we're getting that across the pond money in the building. Again, ladies and gentlemen, as you come in, click that like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell button twice. The super chat button also works, as you can clearly see. Okay, so now we've had a few comments in here, okay, that are quite relevant, and we'll kind of go through them. Okay, talking about Russia, talking about
Can you give me one
uh,
second?
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. Yeah. So a couple of things are going on here when it comes to specifics as to investing. Now, there's some when it comes to the side of blood in the streets, possibly, there's a simple principle there about, well, what's cheap right now? And some way say, well, the law in China is causing a general cheapness of assets right now in, let's say, Cambodia, in certain parts of Asia, right? The Chinese sphere, if you will, okay? And that things there are cheap right now, such that, to take a crude and simple example, if you wanted to go buy a piece of land in Cambodia because you know in 3 years there's going to be a casino there because they're going to make it the next Macau or whatever, right? That kind of a thing. Meaning things are cheap now. China's in the law, but they're going to come back. Things tend to go up. And if things never go up again because there's going to be World War III, then I guess you have bigger problems to worry about, right? So, anyways, let us see here. Again, the point that we've reached so far is the point of inflation. The negative news that we're reviewing is the news about inflation. And so far, we've said A, own the asset. Number two, you can own the business that's inflating, and you want to be in a business in which you have price control so you can turn on that knob. Okay? So far, so
Facts.
good? Cool. Let's go. Let's go.
$1,000 more expensive compared to a year before. 3. The average cost of a new car in the United States just hit $45,000, the highest average figure ever recorded. That led auto sales to drop by 7.3% over the past month alone. 4.
So, more inflation news, but in each of these, we see certain opportunities. In each of these, some things come to mind. The car thing that was just mentioned was like car price going up, car sales going down. Okay. The trends that we're looking, generally speaking, when you envision the future, it's not a necessity that cars will exist forever, number one. And they will not necessarily exist in this particular form, number two. Maybe more electric vehicles are going to become more, shall we say, or less expensive because of the energy costs and what have you, right? So in that, there is an opportunity as a prediction, as to say, what are the possible things that will happen as a result of us moving away from perhaps more of the internal combustion engine or certain kinds of vehicles or building cities in certain kinds of ways and taking advantage of it. Anyways, those are just kind of high level kind of thoughts or ideas, but I don't know, are there any opportunities in the fact that cars are getting more expensive, Dana, that you can think of? And but the sales of the cars are actually going down. Where is this going? What can you forecast? But let me play it again just one more time.
$1,000 more expensive compared to a year before. 3. The average cost of a new car in the United States just hit $45,000, the highest average figure ever recorded. That led auto sales to drop by 7.3% over the past month alone.
Well, this guy's a joke, but it's always the highest figure ever recorded. You know,
Right.
It's called inflation. Anyways, go ahead.
I mean, listen, people with gas prices, people are going out less. People are not, they don't want to buy nothing, because of gas price. And now, for me, it's an insult when you have politicians saying that, oh, just go buy you an electrical car. Like, shut the hell up, because electrical cars are very expensive. This going electric or this green energy, that's not going to happen anytime soon, which is why those cars are so expensive. The average person and majority of us still drive regular cars that require oil. So, people not buying nothing, especially if I just bought a house or if I just paid off my credit cards. I'm not buying no new car because of gas. It may sound petty, it may sound simple, but that's true. That's in somebody's mind. And that's in my mind. I'm not, first of all, I didn't plan on getting a new car anyway, but I'm making sure that my car is still running perfectly, because I'm definitely not buying a new car for I don't know how long. But yeah, I mean, I just think that people they're trying to scare people so that they could push people towards this energy electric car stuff or whatever, and the people are just not buying it. It's just like, I
So
just
you think
won't
it's
buy
not
anything.
working? It's not a good prediction to
No,
think that,
because
okay, go put your money over there. It's going to
yeah,
go
like,
up.
well, I'm not buying no electrical car right now. Number one, I cannot afford it. Gas is
Okay.
already high. So even if I bought an electrical car now and I don't got to worry about gas, that car note is going to be over $500 a month. Are you crazy? Are you kidding me? And especially if I'm a renter and rent just increased by 40% in New York City, and you don't need a car really in New York City, but I'm just saying. So no, that electric stuff, that's a non-factor right now.
Okay, Dana says, she's not betting on the electric thing. She says people most likely feel more like her than not, and they're saying, "Hey, I don't got money for that electrical car crap, and I'm moving towards or away from the whole car in general, at least for now." And which also the question remains: what are the opportunities in
And then
that?
too, like,
Right.
is BMW, Mercedes, are they going to have electrical cars? Because Americans, we love our name brand. So I don't want to tell, is Tesla less electric, right? Or a lot, I see the electric cars, they look ugly and boring. So what do people want? Name brand, and name brand is not electric.
Oh, what if they come, Dana?
Is it coming in the next 4 years?
Okay, so that's your horizon. Gotcha. Okay, cool. We have a timeline. We have a horizon within the next 4 years. We're
It's
not
not. I'm
betting
saying it's not
on
coming in within
cars.
the next 4 years.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah. I've just you got some
Yeah.
parameters on your stance. Let's go.
4. According to the Joint Center for Housing Studies at Harvard University, almost 22% of homeowners and 46.3% of renters in the U.S. are severely burdened by housing costs. 5. 1 in 4 middle-class homeowners, 1 in 2 renters in
More
America
inflation.
spend on average over 30% of their income on housing every month. 6. From the 55 major U.S. cities tracked by the Housing Studies of Harvard University, middle-class families can no longer afford housing in 20 of them, which include Baltimore, New Haven, Austin, Portland, Sacramento, Miami, Denver, and Seattle. 7. If the rate of inflation was measured in the same way it was during the early 1990s, we would be currently witnessing a 15.9% inflation growth,
More
according to
inflation.
shadow government statistics. 8. The price of crude oil has risen above $110 a barrel over the past couple of weeks. As a comparison, in 2010, crude oil was trading at just $20 per barrel. 9.
Yeah, I mean, people were complaining when the oil price crashed also in 2020, like in the middle of 2020 or in March there or something like that, right? People were.
I mean, but
No,
then too, he's being very redundant in this video because housing, people always paid over 30% at 30, or if not
yeah,
over
exactly,
30% for a
exactly.
long time. Now, when you start teetering on between 45, 50, or even over 40, Houston, we have a problem. And in some cities, some people are paying over 40%. That's a problem, even between 45 and 50. So, because you have to look at it like, you should not be spending over 30%. So why, uh, these homeowners, building owners, why are you charging that amount? Because are you going off the AMI, their area medium income, or the national income? But so again, that goes into greed. You're trying to just get more money, abstract more money from people, and people just don't have it. Like come on. Like you
Okay,
still
so
gonna, and you still as a homeowner that rents property, you're still gonna make money if you don't charge me over 40% of my income. It's bad enough that I'm probably paying 35%. I shouldn't be paying over 30.
so let me ask you this, Dana, because we're on housing thing. So far, this video has only mentioned inflation, right? Just this is going up and this is going up and this is going. Okay, cool. So we're on inflation, but if we talk about housing, which is an asset that you can actually rent out and has cash flow and such, or B, something that you just have to stay in. All of us have to have shelter. And people tend to put these two things together in the sense that I own where I stay.
Yeah.
How about if we have this picture, right? Is it possible that I could, because of technology, which is possible, live, let's say, in Tanzania, in the city, in a nice apartment with $200 a month, right? And have the low cost of living in terms of food and service and all these things, okay? And I have my online business, but I own a spot, I don't know, in Jersey, like some kind of condo. It's paying itself off, okay, as a business. In other words, why do I have to live? You see the kind of shift I'm trying to do here? Like, why do I have to be in my business if home property and real estate is to be taken seriously as an investment? Why do people not separate where they live from where they rent out? And Any thoughts on that? Because you can rent because you want to be mobile, for example. I want to be in Tanzania this year and then maybe I'll move it, blah, blah, blah. But I can own somewhere else and have it pay for itself and have that asset go up. Any thoughts about that?
I mean, some people do that, but some people live in their home that they purchase. They have children, they have a family. So, you know, if that's like that would be more ideal for me I could rent somewhere and own something, rent that out, let it pay for itself. And then if I'm living in something and I'm renting, I mean, that I'm owning or that I'm renting, but so I do know some people, especially in the tri-state area, they own property and they rent it out, and where they live at, they rent too. So it's paying for itself, and then you could probably have extra money that could contribute to your rent. But it depends on your lifestyle. But if you have children, you know, you're trying to set roots somewhere and you want to own. I do know in New Jersey, we have the highest state tax, one of the highest. I think California is probably maybe ahead of us and we're second, and then New York is third. But so now, you know, I mean, is it worth owning in these expensive states because of the taxes? So what this governor is doing in New Jersey, he is trying to give the homeowner some tax relief, you know. So again, it just depends, because it could be profitable for you to own something and rent it out. But then it could also be a headache. You may just be breaking even. You may be losing money because then you have to deal with the tenants. So it's, or you just want to have one family and have your family live in it, you know, and that could be your family home because you have children or whatever. The neighborhood is nice. The school system is good, and build equity into that. Now, this is another thing. If you buy a house and it's $300K, right? You have a mortgage. So how much do you own of that? You know, you got to be paying into that mortgage, on that mortgage, because technically the bank still own that home. So, you know, it's
yeah. We and this is the thing, because
if I sell it, the bank gonna take their money that I didn't finish paying on it first, and then I get the leftovers.
Yeah. So that game of home ownership, which is really mortgage ownership, right, is not a crazy game, but it just should be understood what exactly it is you own. Right?
Yeah.
And what exactly the game that you're playing. When it comes to credit in general, I think people take a very I'm going to follow what everybody does attitude. So this is what you just said now, or what we just did now, kind of just disaggregating and say, okay, I can think of where I live versus just maybe owning stuff somewhere because of the opportunity, right? As a separate thing. And I could put them together for other reasons, like you mentioned, because of the family and the school district and whatnot, right? But people just tend to think of it as there's got to be one way to do things. And then what you also mentioned, for example, the headache with having property that you're renting out. This is where you have to go big. That's the only way to solve that problem. In other words, if you have one unit or two units, and you have to deal with people it being empty, you know, you're either 100% full or you're 0% full, right? But if you start out saying, you know what, I'm not going to get into real estate until me and my buddy here can own 20 units together, right? And you just don't go into it until you get there. Because if you start with 20 units, it can actually pay for itself in the sense that you can have a manager, you give them one unit, blah, blah, blah. You find a good person, presumably, all those kinds of things. So the economies of scales and things of this nature, let's not go, as you said last week, too deep with it, but let's continue this, playing this video here, still talking about inflation. Let's see if he moves on.
Americans have only seen average gasoline prices rise above the $4 mark 2 times in all U.S. history. The first time was during the Great Recession of 2008. The second time was this week, with national gas prices reaching $4.09 on Monday. 10. After the 2008 crisis and up until 2010, the 2-year median price for a gallon of gasoline was around $3.79. Today, experts are warning that gasoline prices will reach soon $5 and will stay elevated for the foreseeable future. 11. Since the average American household goes through about 750 gallons of gas a year, that means in 2022, U.S. families will spend somewhere around $3,075 for gas. That's nearly $250 more than they would normally spend before the beginning of the health crisis. 12. Over 70% of Americans said they intend to slow down their spending in 2022. according to data compiled by the Federal Reserve in New York. 13. The average American worker spends between 23 to 25% of their monthly budget on food and gasoline. For the working poor, that figure goes up to 29 to 31%. 14. 60% of California public school students need government assistance to afford lunch. 15. Right now, outstanding student loan debt stands at $1.58 trillion. Back in 2010, total student loan debt in the U.S. was at $760 billion. 16. The average asking price for a home in the United States just hit $400,000, the highest it has ever been. 17. According to a report released by Black Knight, there are currently 1.8 million Americans who are seriously delinquent on their mortgage payments. 18. At least 12 million renters are still behind on rent, the Pulse survey reported. 19. Last week alone, 8,345 evictions occurred all across the nation. According to data released by the Eviction
Okay, so this eviction talk and the default talk, okay, we've heard it before. I don't know if you have any. Do you have any thoughts on it, just on the surface, about this winter that came apparently?
No, winter is here, and winter is here to stay, honey. When they would say winter is coming, winter is here to stay. But this is the thing, like, you know, I really don't have much sympathy for people that weren't paying their rent to a certain degree, up until a certain point. Because
All right, let's go.
we did get a lot of free money. What was the first 6 months of the pandemic when we was getting an extra $600 a week? Mind you, I could say this about, I could admit this about myself, to where I should have been saving more. I should have been saving more with that extra money, and I did not. However, I did pay. I would pay my rent. I would pay my bills up to date and on time. So I was never in that hole. But you know, the government allowed you not to pay your rent up until February of this year, and you don't got to pay that back rent, right? But and those owners, they got that money from the state, their state and the federal. So it's not like they just went rent with no rent money. No, they got that money from the government, you know, reimbursed them. But they're like, okay, if you're not paying your rent, then you got to get out. And I'm just saying, well, what were you doing with all that extra money that you had coming in? So if you wasn't paying your rent, maybe you didn't want to, okay. Well, why weren't you saving it so you could have something to move or to purchase something or whatever? So, you know, I don't understand that aspect of it, to where a lot of people are getting evicted and they're saying they don't have nowhere to go and they don't have no money. Well, what were you doing with the money that you were not paying your rent? If I'm not paying my rent, let's say $1,000, that means I have $1,000 extra unless I'm unemployed. So were you unemployed? You know, and those are not true numbers. Like, you know, again, everybody's situation is different. A lot of people are getting evicted, but I do question the why. Why are you getting evicted? What were you doing with your money? Why couldn't you pay your rent? So it's a lot of questions with that.
So let's take a slight detour away from the video here in terms of what the video is focused on, and let's talk about, let's say, presumably some other area where there's good news. Because hey, let's say you and I, Dana, decide to create a video that says, hey, things are great. You might start by talking about the great things in the healthcare industry, for example. Okay, someone else may start also say something about cybersecurity, because here's the thing about cybersecurity: we're going to continue to do more and more cyber crap, right? Metaverse, cyber warfare, whatever it may be, companies keeping their data in the cloud, if you will, and hence the security game is like a cat and mouse game, just like a nuclear arms race is gonna keep ramping up, right? So there's a great opportunity there, okay? Because believe it or not, the people are still in business. Billions and trillions of dollars are still moving around in the planet, and cybersecurity needs to happen. So that's another example. There is the blockchain, there is AI, there is the Internet of Things and the connection of all these things together. Generally, these things are called the fourth industrial revolution, or another industrial revolution, right? Now, what do you see? You can start with the healthcare industry, okay? Because one thing besides what you said is that I know that people are going to be retiring, the baby boomers are retiring, there's going to be care that's needed, okay? Whether it be all the way from, the last stage type homes, I forget what you call them now, right?
Mhm.
All the way through, and all the way from the high end to just straight up bedpan type situation, right? So, including other type of examples. What is in the healthcare area, which is we know is a booming area?
Well, healthcare, because every people get sick, and people are going to continue to get sick. You have the pharmaceutical factor of it. For me personally, what I realize now is a lot of people now suffer from a lot of mental issues, and it just got exacerbated. It grew a lot because of the pandemic. A lot of people are stressed, right? So when you talk about holistic, people want to be healthy because of COVID-19, and not just getting vaccinated, but eating well, losing weight, just changing your lifestyle. People are looking for alternative therapies besides taking a pill.
Mhm.
My industry is booming, and I was surprised. It started booming last year, even though people were still cautious. They were just so stressed the hell out. So coming out of this, anxiety, which falls under mental health, your physical health, the residue of people who were affected with COVID or trying to be preventive, healthcare is booming,
Mhm.
and it's
Mhm.
going to stay that way for a very long time, because that's just COVID. People still have pre-existing conditions. Older people, they're moving out of the workforce. A lot of young people are sick. So how
Oh, wait, hold
can
on, hold on, Dana. Let's just let's stop right there with that old people thing you just said, and let's try to drill down a little bit. I'm going to try to see. I'm going to be asking you questions. You're more familiar with the area, right? The healthcare area. Okay. So, what we do know, okay, baby boomer generation, massive generation, and they're all old now. Okay. They also have massive amounts of dollars. They're literally the richest generation that ever existed on Earth. Okay. They got a lot of money. Okay. It's the millennials that are broke. Okay. the boomers got it. Okay. They got all
Well, a
the
lot of
freaking money.
millennials are making money if they're in STEM,
Oh,
but
true. But you know what I mean when I say, who owns all the crap,
I mean,
right?
but millennials, you just started working, you just started your career, so you're not going to have money anyway.
Not complaining about it. I'm saying
Yeah.
these people whom are retiring and dying, they got some money.
They have,
and they're
and,
coming
and
into the healthcare thing.
and
Right?
they have Medicaid, so
Mhm,
Medicaid in the health insurance industry, that's the bulk of the federal government paying for these
Mhm.
baby boomers, right?
Exactly.
They come with ailments, they come with sickness. They are retired, so they have a pension. So yes.
Let me ask you this then. Let's say we take a particular area when it comes to retirement home, not convalescent, but the nursing homes. Let's just call it that for general reference. Nursing homes. Okay. These things are needed, and they do get funded, by, shall we say, government dollars or whatever it may be, whereby you find a property, okay, and you have to staff it, or you buy an existing business, okay?
Mhm.
You buy an existing business, especially in situations like right now where there's blood in the streets. I'm going to say something, and I'm going to ask you about the actual operations, about, how would you take over a business such as this? Okay, so when it comes to buying a business, you find a motivated seller. That's the number one thing you want to do. What's a motivated seller? A motivated seller is a couple where the wife is dying from emphysema, and the kids don't want to have anything to do with the business, and the guy is tired, and it's like, what, let's get rid of it. Or they're going through a divorce and they need to sell the business. Whatever it may, they're motivated to sell, and they exist, and they own nursing homes, let's say. So this is the idea. You find an area that for sure this is going to boom. Old people with money, with government dollars as well, coming in. They come with ailments. Okay. Now you go in there, you find a motivated seller for one of these businesses, and then you can find two or three, or you get the funding through, let's say, the bank. But we're not talking about the funding now. Is that something? How difficult is it to take over that kind of a business, keep it running, because the staff that it needs? Okay, I need 2 nurses and 1 doctor to show up here every 2 weeks, that kind of thing. Could you pull that off? Could we, is that something that you could school people on a little bit here?
Well, no, because that's not what I do. And I mean, you don't have to be a medical specialist to buy
Hmm.
a medical business per se. But the whole idea of buying a medical business or selling your medical business, that is a thing that is profitable. Some people do, for instance, is because I'm in massage therapy, there are people who sell their spa business.
Hmm. Hmm.
That is, so you have a lot of spa chains, or you can buy into a massage chain and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But nursing homes, yeah, that's more detailed, because that's just like if I'm buying like a medical building or something like
Hmm.
that.
Good, good, good. So
Yeah,
let me ask them.
it,
Let me
it
add
is
this part.
happening. That is a thing, but
Oh yeah,
yeah, I'm just not into
let's
that
go on
field.
here. Let's continue. This is kind of fun here because I think I have the abstract notion of what a business needs, but I'm trying to see if it fits. Okay, so I'm cool. So you're like, okay, it's like buying a whole medical building. Great. So that means that I need people who know that thing. Whom, like, for example, if I were to go into an engineering company, okay, there is the sales side of things, there's the project management side of things, there's the people who do the drafting, blah blah blah. There's a way in which most engineering or architect companies run, right? So these people exist out there that know how a nursing home run, right? Let's say,
Hmm.
right, or know how a spa runs. Okay, then it is up to me to find a team of these people, right?
Yeah.
They say I go out there and I sell it to them on LinkedIn, like, hey, say you got this expertise, you're the this, that, or the other. I'm starting a consortium of people that are gonna buy this business. These are the numbers, pop, 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 pop. You want to join my team? Is that feasible? Does that sound crazy?
No, that sounds how it's done.
Okay. All right.
Like for instance, it's like if you do want, let's say, a nursing home, you're talking about that's a lot of government money guaranteed,
Hmm.
which means you do have to have you have to have a team of people that do certain positions, right? You have to have certain certifications. You have to maintain a lot of regulations in order to continue to receive the government funding for like these nursing homes, because again, these are retired people, Medicaid, people with a pension and stuff like that. So Medicaid is government funds,
Hmm.
what do you call that, CMD or CMM, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever. But anyway, so a lot of these nursing homes, that means especially if you're going in to buy or to bid on it, that's contracts that you have with your local government, particularly on a state level. So you have to have, you know, um, let's just say a director, project manager, an accountant, nurses, people with
Hmm.
certain certifications, stuff like that. And you have to make sure that you are within like the zoning, what
Hmm.
you call it, when you zoning regulations and
Hmm.
everything, beds, and making sure that you have standard care for your clients slash
Hmm.
patients.
Hmm.
You have to have a nursing staff. So you're kind of like in bed with the government, because that's where majority of your money is coming from.
100%. And we should continue down that line
And that's
after
and
we get
honestly,
into a
that
bit.
is a whole nother show for you to have on government contracts,
Oh, all day,
especially
all day.
yeah. So
All day. So, Dr. Thunder, okay, let's start with this. Okay, we're going to start this way, Dr. Thunder. We started out talking about this particular statement here attributed to Rothschild, okay? One of the Rothschilds saying basically the time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. Another way to talk about it is, you need to be bold when others are fearful. We talk about the market here. We're talking about investing here, right? What does this statement mean to you that the time to buy is when there is blood in the streets?
Yeah, I mean, uh, the politicians are always talking about never waste a crisis, you know, uh, because there's always opportunity when there's volatility. There's opportunity to make money. Some folks are trying to get rid of stuff. You can buy it cheap. Um, you know, um, you can likely sell things maybe at an upcharge during certain times, depending on what it is that you're selling. Um, you know, with the threat of like a third world war, some folks might be thinking, hey, I need to stock up on food, or I need a bomb shelter, or I need whatever else it is. And so there's always opportunities in crisis to sort of take advantage of folks, as it were, especially if you have money. If you have money during a crisis, then you're only going to get richer.
Yeah.
If you don't have any money during a crisis, you're just going to get more broke.
Yeah. Point being, if you don't have money during a crisis, just make sure you have money during the next one. This is a perennial principle. In other words, what we're saying here, have money during crises, is always going to be there forever. So it's not the end of the world. And crisis, don't worry, it'll rain
But
again.
I love
right?
the way Dr. Thunder put it, because he put it so simple, and because we did touch on this earlier, but he just put it in one sentence. If you have money in a crisis, you're going to get rich. If you don't, you're going to get poor, which is true. And that kind of happened with me. Yes and no. I honestly, with me, and ever since the last show when Dr. Thunder put in that thing about laziness with mental slavery, and I was like, no, that doesn't. I think that does have to do with mental slavery, but it does have to do with laziness. And anyway, my whole point is, I had an ephany this week, a come to Jesus moment, and I'm in my lazy zone right now.
I'll do that to you. You know.
Oh,
I'm
you
good-
want
I'm
to
good for
take
that.
credit with that?
I'm good with
Okay.
No, I'll just joking. I'll tease.
No, I you know what? But you have to be honest with yourself. And I was like, let me just be honest with myself this week. I am in my lazy zone.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are lazy, which is why, going back to what he said in that one sentence, if you have money, you're going to get richer. If you don't have money in a crisis, you're going to get poor. And the pandemic was an exception because you got free money and you still come out poor.
So let's continue with the video, okay? But so far, what have we gathered? Okay, we've basically said that in inflation, there are two things you want to do. Number one, you want to own the assets so that inflation works in your favor. You can at least plan. You can be like, okay, I'm going to exit at this point or keep it for 50 years, whatever it may be. But you are in the side with more choices when you're the one that has the assets. You're not complaining about home prices going up when you're the person that owns it, especially when you got it fully paid off, right? That kind of a thing. And also own the business that can be that inflation, that also inflates businesses and homes, assets, that kind of a thing, right? And then you want to have price control, right? You want to be in a business where you have price control. You don't want to go into something where it's hyper competitive. You have no room, no breathing room whatsoever. So you want to be in certain kinds of services where you can have a boutique or niche type situation whereby you can turn up the prices. You build a nice brand, build a name for yourself, turn up the prices, all that kind of stuff. So many opportunities here. And then we started talking about, hey, healthcare or other areas whereby it's actually good news. Forget about taking advantage of blood in the streets, which may not even be real blood in the streets, which Dana alluded to. But there's actual opportunities out there where markets are booming and whatnot. But let's continue here with this crazy list about evictions and stuff.
In lab, 774,456 evictions have occurred in the past year. 20. A new survey released by Magnify Money found that over 50% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. That figure includes those earning less than $35,000 and those earning more than $100,000 a year. 21. 76% of low-income families are living paycheck to paycheck, while 31% of middle-class families are also living paycheck to paycheck. 22. 42 million people currently receive food stamps in the U.S. Over the past 2 years, an additional 11 million people filed for food assistance all across the country. 23. In 2021, 35 million Americans experienced food insecurity.
Okay, so I want to ask a serious question, okay? We'll start with Dr. Thunder and then Dana. There is the point here that was made about paycheck to paycheck. So there are two ways in which paycheck to paycheck can happen. Number one is, hey, I just have the money. There's no way I can stretch the money, right? It's got to be paycheck to paycheck. Another way is, obviously we know that I could give you, no matter how much money I could give you, you can find a way to live paycheck to paycheck, okay? Right? So the question is, over time, we then measure, people in this particular period of time were not living paycheck to paycheck. Now they're living paycheck to paycheck. Well, how do we know exactly which one of these two causes it is? Obviously, it's going to be both, a little bit of both, right? But which one is predominantly the cause? In other words, is it the cause people are having bad habits, okay? Not being frugal where they should be, not saving that money that Dr. Thunder said they should have in times of crisis, blah, 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 as opposed to they just don't have enough raw cash. What would you say, Dr. Thunder? Which one is the bigger contributor? Now, let me give my point real quick. Just one point to remember, that interest rates are bad for people now. Like back in the day, you could put your money in the bank and actually get money, right? You could save. You could actually, these days, saving is definitely not incentivized. So I'll give the current people that score on the board, right? Dr. Thunder and then Dana. I believe you're muted, Dr. Thunder, or maybe it's
Okay,
me.
I should be okay. Sorry about that.
Okay, good.
Money, the way to be good with money is the way to be good with practically anything. And that's discipline. So the issue here is there's a lack of discipline for, I'd say, practically everybody. And that's incentivized by materialism. Everybody's trying to get the latest this, the latest that. Technology evolves like every, 30 minutes or something. And so now you think you need to, to get the new phone, and it does this one or two other features that your current phone doesn't do. So we're constantly being marketed to this item, this thing. This is going to be the thing that really makes you feel better. My dad told me when I was young, and of course I didn't really understand it until later, but he said, he would always tell me, wants are insatiable. Wants are insatiable. It doesn't matter how much money you have or how broke you are. Whenever you get something and you'll think that that thing is the thing that's going to make you, like, if I just get this one last thing, if I just get this one thing, then that's going to be the thing that is going to satisfy, but it never happens.
Mm-hmm.
So we're constantly being marketed to those that have a lot of money are, marketing stuff to us, and they're getting more money, and they're not living paycheck to paycheck. But we're living paycheck to paycheck because when I say we, I mean the average American is living paycheck to paycheck because they don't have this sort of financial discipline necessary to say no. If my account doesn't at least say this number, then the answer is always no. Rather than, hey, well, but you can finance it and you can do this other thing and such and such, you can call your cousin, maybe they'll give you some money or whatever. There's all these other ways that, you could get the money, because that the urgency of getting this new item, is so great. I think that's a lot. I think that's a lot of it. And I think that affects everyone from broke folks to folks that actually got real money.
So Dana, what you got to say on this here?
What's the question again? So I can know.
Yeah, okay. So basically, the point is this: people are living paycheck to paycheck, right? Now, is it more that they're just not getting enough money, right? Which is maybe a little bit of it. Or is it more that they just have bad habits now? Okay. And then I said, hey, we'll grant them that these days you don't have an interest rate that allows you to save money in the bank, right? So they at least have that. But do you think people just have bad habits today? That's why they're living paycheck to paycheck? Or is it that they just, they just can't make it? The money's not there.
No, definitely you have bad habits. I would say that I'm one of them. I have bad spending habits. I love to spend money. Marriage would have been better for me because I like to spend money, and that would have been probably one of the main incentives for me to get married, so that I could spend my money and not worry about my bills. Other than that, I don't need to be married. But anyway,
hey, all of you out there that are that are sweating Dana. Now you know she's not a good option for you. All
Well,
right.
that's the thing.
Stop looking at Dana. Stay out of her
No,
DM.
but that's the thing. Like,
She
at
just told
least
you.
that's the thing. Like, at least I'm being honest. Most people, most women, they're going to lie to you.
There you go.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is, yes, people do live paycheck to paycheck, and that's because this is several reasons. There are people who make good money but live paycheck to paycheck because they have bad habits. There are people who don't make enough money and live paycheck to paycheck because they don't make enough, which means they need to build up their skills. And some people who don't have bad habits and don't make much, but they're still able to save because they are frugal as hell, right? So honestly, what it boils down to is, I would say bad habits takes you out every time. There are people who were rich and became poor because of bad habits. There are people who are middle class and became poor because of bad habits, or just can't get ahead. And so bad habits is more to blame than anything else. And as Americans, we have a consumerism problem, right? We like to buy. And then when you get interpersonal, when you look at individuals, women like to spend money, right? When you talk about Black people compared to other people, I don't think we are taught money management as much as other groups of people are. So financial discipline, yeah, King. So the thing is, being financial discipline, majority of us do not have. And I will sit up here and say, I don't have financial discipline. I looked at, when I was doing my taxes this year, I was like, damn, I didn't realize I made this much. And I said, I did put a goal for myself to save an X amount. And I actually made that goal to save, but I don't have that savings. Because
it's not savings if you don't have it,
No. The money that I made, I was supposed to put it and not touch it. It was a certain amount that I wanted to make in a certain amount of time. And I actually made that amount plus some more. But I didn't have enough financial discipline to put it somewhere where I didn't touch it. You see what I'm saying? So I'm using me as an example, but multiply me by millions of people. Because that is the problem. Bad habits. It's bad habits. So I always fall on my ass. But because I do have a special skill, I can always pivot and rebound. So again, and then two, what's going to make me stop having bad habits? Me looking down the line and saying, I don't want to be those old poor people in those crappy nursing homes because I didn't have a savings. Like, I need to live fabulously, unless I trick a man to marry me, but I don't, that's the job itself.
See. I'm just saying. See, this is why, men, you should not care about how much money your woman makes. Because she's going to spend all of her money on her, and you're going to just be paying the bills.
Yes. But see, I'm not woman. I'm telling you because I can tell you that's what it is. Yes. I don't.
You got to click this.
If a woman tell you anything else, just know she lying. She's a lying hoe. She lying. So she lying. She lying.
She is a lying hoe.
Yeah, and I tell men off the rip, like, I would never pay over 20%. I believe in an 80-20 rule. I'll go back to my 80-20 rule with the man. That's why I should have been married, but I wasn't focused on that. And I would have been married just for that, so I don't have to pay bills. Other than that, what's the point of getting married?
Quite reasonable, it seems to me.
Why would I get married?
There's nothing outside of human nature.
Why would I get married and pay bills still?
Well, there you have it. Clipped and ready for your consumption later on. But here, okay, let's continue with this thing here, okay? Let's continue with all this paycheck to paycheck, gloom and doom type stuff and see what else we can get out of it.
$1,000 a year. 21. 76% of low-income families are living paycheck to paycheck, while 31% of middle-class families are also living paycheck to paycheck. 22. 42 million people currently receive food stamps in the U.S. Over the past 2 years, an additional 11 million people filed for food assistance all across the country. 23. In 2021, 35 million Americans experience food insecurity, according to Oxford Economics. 24. The Census Bureau Household Poll Survey found that 20 million households reported having too little to eat over the past 7 days. 25. Over the past 2 years, food banks provided over 500,000 free meals to hungry Americans. 26. Since 2020, approximately 2 million more children have started to live in poverty, marking a 16% increase, and a total of 11.9 million American children currently living in poverty-struck homes. 27. In February, there were 800,000 vacant jobs in the U.S. However, about 73.4% of them were offered low wages. 28. According to a survey released by Domash and Summers, 40% of U.S. workers are considering leaving the labor force in 2022. 29. Since the year 2000, U.S. workers have been displaced from 7.4 million.
Okay, so all this so far is more is the worker thing. We started out with the inflation thing. He gave like 15 points on the different things that are going up in price. we need to know each one of them. You know, lest we forget. Now he's talking about the downward, whatever, downtrodden nature. You talked to Real Dana about the fact that where stuff happened to in 2020. And then you pivoted, and then towards the end of it, the third quarter, blah, 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 you came through, you realized, oh, God, I made a lot of money. Okay, so we've already seen that a lot of these things that are being said behind a lot of these numbers lie people like Dana, and they came out on top. There was actually opportunity that they were able to make out of having the rug pulled out from under them. But Dr. Thunder, any thoughts so far about all this job loss? Do you see any opportunities in there, or are there any predictions? Why do you think all this is worth mentioning on the part of this video?
Well, I mean, if I can take a certain angle on this. Sometimes losing your job is the incentive that you need to actually start doing maybe what it was that you actually wanted to be doing in the first place. And I think about like the pandemic. And now, granted, I've still been, playing gigs and stuff about every week, even through the entire pandemic, because because I'm a church musician also. So so pretty much for the whole pandemic, I've been doing that. Plus, I've been, playing other gigs with my band, and then, subbing for different folks and all kinds of things. And I did a bunch of like those sort of multicam kind of videos where now you're playing one of the parts and you send in the video to somebody and they assemble all the stuff together. I've done a bunch of that stuff and write music and all like that. So I stayed busy, and I did a bunch of lessons and stuff, like online lessons and things. Some of that stuff, as far as like really getting the infrastructure set up so that I can be more automated with that. Frankly, some of that stuff was because of the pandemic. Right? It kind of pushed me to have to do certain things. The amount that I'm live streaming, for instance, on the my interview series, Conversations with Dr. Thunder, which I just interviewed my 194th guest. So episode 194. And that actually started end of March 2020. So that was like right at the beginning of the pandemic. So I wanted to do that in the past, but I was just busy, just being busy, doing all kind of stuff. And so sometimes like a crisis can occur. You can lose your job or whatever else it is. And that can cause you to, upgrade, though, there might be some turmoil, and some sort of not really knowing what's going to happen, but as they say, this too shall pass. I think, that's actually, that's actually been, as I said, that's been a great benefit for myself. And I know a lot of folks that started doing stuff and they're doing really well now because they stayed consistent with it through the pandemic. Whereas I know a bunch of other folks that they just stayed lazy through the pandemic and now they worse off than they were in the beginning.
Right.
You know,
I would say that was
Mhm.
I would say that was kind of me. Like I was on YouTube, but thinking back to the pandemic when we were on lockdown in 2020, because I never experienced nothing like that. Like I had left my corporate job of 20 years to do my passion full time and had I was working at this great place, right? Um and then I was going to just pivot completely independently. And then the pandemic hit. And I never went through any of that before. So like my parents, they went through stuff like that because they were much older. So I think I panicked because it's like what I never filed for unemployment in my life until the pandemic, and then I'm like, oh my God, what if I can't massage people because of C-19? So all that was going through my head, and looking back, I didn't realize that I was living in high anxiety for probably 3 months straight. I wasn't home because I got stuck in North Carolina. Luckily, I had family there. Turned out kind of to be better, but because I couldn't come back to New Jersey. So my point is, at half of 2020, I feel as though looking back, I was internally panicking. And then in 2021, that's when things started turning. And it's like, oh, okay, it's not so bad, right? I had to pivot. I did. But now I find myself having to pivot again because it's no more of that vaccination money, but I can still make money doing what I do, So,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but
Makes perfect
I
sense.
got lazy. Yeah, but I did get lazy. And then I got unlazy, and then I'm kind of lazy now, but I'm about to get unlazy.
There you go.
Whatever, Dr. Dunder.
but I wouldn't say nothing. I just, I'm
All right, cool. Okay, cool. Let's give our closing thoughts on this, because it's already the time went by pretty quickly. Okay, I didn't realize.
Thanks to me and Ike, yes, we held it down, honey.
Yeah, we indeed held it down. Yes.
we're
The
gonna
dynamic
have
duo
to
over
crack
here.
the whip. We're gonna have to crack the whip on some cats.
You know the.
Or rotate some new people.
Yeah.
So we know the deal: blood on the streets, time to buy, right? And then we have all this news that tells you about all this blood on the streets. Okay, to the degree to which they are real, then they're just opportunities. You go out there and you get them, right? But in addition to that, there's certain factors, certain trends that make it such that, for example, healthcare is going up, cybersecurity is going up, right? And there's that whole fourth industrial revolution thing, the Internet of Things and certain the blockchain and what have you. All these things are going up, right? And also, it is true of emerging markets, right? What do you do in emerging markets? Well, you take advantage of the land, for example. You take advantage of hiring people, for example. You take advantage of whatever it is that the Chinese people are doing in there. Okay, they're not stupid. Whatever China is doing in Africa, they're not dumb. And when it gets told later in the history books about how this particular country or this conglomerate of corporations then became the ruling class of whatever, this is how it happens, right? It's not like it's right in front of your face. So point is, you can participate. So next industrial revolution type stuff, okay? And also emerging markets type stuff. Plus taking advantage of these inflation stories by owning the assets and owning the business, becoming the inflation, having price control. Let's get your last thoughts, Dr. Thunder, and then the real Dana. So whatever final thoughts you may have, something to promote, whatever it may be, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. And indeed. So, yeah, and I was a latecomer today because I actually had a gig, right? And gig went well and everything. For freelance musicians and those in the service industry, the pandemic has been quite devastating, right? Because you need an audience, right? You need a venue. And a lot of these venues have closed. A lot of the jazz, several of the historic jazz venues closed for good, during the pandemic. Now, hopefully what happens is somebody buys them and they get revived. But it's been quite devastating. Now, I know a lot of folks that they decided, okay, now I'm going to pivot to teaching lessons online, and so the market got flooded with a bunch of musicians that wanted to teach online lessons. Now, the thing is that I've been online since I've had my YouTube channel since like 2007 or something. So I've been online for a long time. And I've been doing the social media thing and technology thing. And so when I got more aggressive about doing the online lesson and online consultations and things, it wasn't like I was starting from scratch. A lot of folks, it was very obvious that they were starting from scratch. It was real clunky. The stuff wasn't really together, right? So I think there's been a pretty significant advantage to those that had experience online, live streaming and different things, over folks that just decided that, hey, I got to pivot now, and I just got fired. I better start my my YouTube career. Folks like that.
Are you taking a stab at me?
No. I'm not taking a stab at it. I'm just saying that folks that had sort of a head start, as it were, I think the pandemic, has been pretty good for. But yeah, I mean, you gotta save your money, all of that, good advice. I mean, I can do a better job of that. One of the challenges for somebody like myself is that I have a lot of different ways I can make money. So the thing is that what that sometimes does, it has the effect of, rather than saving your money, I focus on getting more money. The thing is if you're not going to save money, there's no way to get enough money to counteract just spending it out the other side all the time.
Yeah.
There's no way to counteract that. So if you live like a poor person, but are raking in big money, that's always the thing. And so when you see like these, you see these like CEOs and whatever of Fortune 500 companies and stuff like this, and they're driving like a vehicle that's like 15 years old, and they're wearing jeans and a blazer or something half the time. They got money, but you don't know if they got money. That's smart. So anyhow, that's sort of my thing. I mean, save your money, do what you can do. If things don't work out, use it as an opportunity to pivot. Usually pivoting, it works best if it's something that you have some experience in, you have some sort of knack for, something that you're not just starting from scratch. But whatever it is, just get moving, just get started.
Yeah. My closing remarks. Be honest with yourself about your bad habits and work on it. And when I say that, I'm mainly talking about finance, right? You don't have to become, and you're not going to become financially disciplined overnight. Take baby steps. Yo Gotti, it was a clip that somebody uploaded on one of these hip hop blogs, and he was saying that, everybody want to become a millionaire, but they think they need $1 million check, and they don't realize that they would have became a millionaire years ago if they were saving along the way. He was like, you have to save. In order to get $1 million, you have to save to get there. Whether it's, 1,000 or 40,000 here, 20 there. And that is the problem with most people. They don't know how to save, or they're just not financially disciplined. So it's whether you're going through a pandemic, whether, the economy is in high inflation, Even whether you own your home, it does not matter. Start somewhere, and not just save to let it sit in the bank, but plan that savings to multiply. You know, the thing is, and Star told me this, he was like, the trick is getting old. And that's what I'm facing with right now. I'm not old, but it's like, how do I want to live my life in retirement? So part of that is not just saving, that is learning how to save, but also learning how to invest, learning how to capitalize the most out of your money.
Mhm.
So and that's very important. And and it needs to be multiple things, how your money should be working for you. But you need a starting point, and the starting point starts with saving.
Mhm.
So, just be honest with yourself. I'm honest with myself to where, yes, I'm not financially disciplined. And I need to change that. And it doesn't matter how old you are, just start. It doesn't matter how much money you make, just start small and grow from there.
Yeah,
All right,
if
all
I can
right, all
say
right.
if I
Go
can
ahead.
say something too, part of the saving thing, saving is not just putting money in the bank or putting stacks under your mattress or something. Uh, Saving is also stuff like maxing out your retirement fund, or invest. So like certain kinds of investments that are low risk investments, that's also saving money.
Hmm.
And in that way, I've done pretty well. I was looking at my because I'm a teacher, and I'm working in the state of Ohio, so the whole what is it, Ohio Teachers Retirement, whatever the acronym is. Uh, I maxed out whatever I could put in and have my institution match it. So I maxed that out. So that happens every month. I don't even see that. Sometimes saving is it's better if you don't know about it.
Yeah.
If you know about it, if you have to physically be doing something, that because that takes it already takes discipline. That takes like Herculean discipline.
I mean, I think it takes discipline to even set up something to where you're not going to touch it. Literally, and this is what I'm saying. I'm honest with myself. Like, I need to set up something to where I don't have easy access to give.
So A Hill
Hey
was
man,
saying
you
something.
could just you could
And by
just
the
like
way,
deposit into my Cash App each month. I'll hold on to it for you.
are you going to match it in your 401k so I could withdraw it out? Or, and by the way, honey, Ohio
No.
State lost
I'll
today.
just give it back to you.
I'm just Ohio State lost today.
Bitcoin. I'll
You
put
heard
it
me,
in
Dr.
Bitcoin.
Thunder? Your team lost. Your alma mater, your employment.
No.
They lost.
It's not my alma mater. I did not go to Ohio State. I just
Oh,
work at
well, but
Ohio
I
State.
think you worked there, all right?
Now what you got?
You worked there.
I do work there. That's
Yeah.
true.
And y'all lost. You lost.
Indeed. So A Hill was saying something in the chat about this whole hiding money from yourself thing. Okay. And Dr. Under already mentioned the 401k thing. That's something that some people have advantage of, right? If you're purely a 1099 person, you don't have a W-2, it's something you cannot easily do.
No,
So
wait,
yeah,
back up. Yes, you can. And
you could
honestly,
do
I
a
would definitely
IRA.
encourage you, if you were 1099, you could do a 401k under
Oh
your
yeah, you could
business. And that is a tax
same
credit.
kind of thing. Yes, 100% as well. You do that, but then there are other things that I do. Like you have a account in Coinbase, have an account in Robinhood, have an account in a few of these places where you can just do simple transfers from and you have your spreadsheet because you've done some basic steps in terms of, like, your budget, right? You know the money that's coming in and money that's going out. You tighten up the belt here and there, and you're like, you know what? I can afford to forget about this much money, right, every month, right? And you just send it to Robinhood or Coinbase or whatever it is these app type accounts are, right? And you dollar cost average into some kind of stock that over, or crypto, whatever it may be, right? That's an easy one. Download an app, connect it to your main account, go look at the kind of money that you can forget, automate it, and forget it. So just a last word there as we go out. But the question was, 2022, will it bring a boom or a bust? Well, the answer really is, it's up to
Yes.
you, right?
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. Yes. There will be everybody. Everything will happen to everybody. All right, peace. We're out.
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what dwells behind the curtain, the face of evil lurking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannon could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising and hearts are compromising, convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest and the righteous in your corners.